So today we're here to talk about the future of Afro electronic music, and I am joined by some of the finest people in the game, from the original, the OGs, to some of the new generation coming through as well. And there's obviously a huge amount of energy around Afro electronic music right now. Quato, G-Com, Amapiano, Afro House, Afro Tech. These aren't just genres. They represent one of the most extraordinary waves of musical innovations we've seen in the last 30 years. And of course, a lot of that has emerged from South Africa. But every genre that goes global reaches this moment, from jazz to reggae to hip hop. There comes a point where scale brings pressure, and there's questions around identity, ownership, and maybe some of the things that get lost along the way. And what's really interesting is that Afro electronic is kind of at that inflection point where it's seen extraordinary, explosive growth. But sometimes when you scale so fast, that speed can come at a cost. And, we've sort of started to see a little bit questions around the dilution of the term Afro house. And there's obviously a lot of ways that the culture is responding. There's a return to Afro tech purism. And many of the original voices are moving ahead and they're evolving much faster than the industry can define them. So, yeah, absolutely honored to be exploring some of these questions today. My name's Farah Nanji. I'm the curation manager at IMS, podcaster behind Mission Makers, where this is being streamed to. I'm an artist on Mo Black Records as a producer and DJ as well. And starting with Claydo, we have Claydo from Sondela. Do you want to give a little introduction?
Hi everyone, I'm Claydo or Clay from Sondela. I do creative direction, marketing, and A&Ring as well, and I DJ myself. I've been DJing for about 10 years now, and yeah, we're just trying to champion African electronic artists and sound, and do good in this world of music.
Amazing, thank you. Then we have Shanae Dennis from the team. Shanae?
Hi, my name's Shanae. I used to I work at the team, which we all know what it formerly was. I've got a lot of different artists. I do some electronic stuff, but I also do some live bits. But my passion has always been for Afro electronic music, hence why I'm here today.
Amazing, thank you. And then we have Kulo de Song. It doesn't really need an introduction, but
Oh no, I do. Hi guys, my name is Kulole Tuzulu, Kulo the Song, from South Africa. Producer, DJ, been doing it for a minute now. I'm happy to be having this conversation with you guys, and yeah, I don't put conclusions to things, so let's let it flow.
and then Mo Black.
My name is Mimo Falcone. Emo Black is my name, artist name, and the label name. I am in the game since 11 years now.
Running the biggest Afro house label in the world. Congratulations. And finally, we have Raphael Pujol from Beatport.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raphael. I'm global vice president of global curation at Beatport. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm actually stepping in for our curator, Podi, who couldn't make it from South Africa for reasons out of our control, which is probably a topic of its own. He couldn't make it here today because of a visa issue. So I'm here to replace him. I'm not, the all-time expert, but I'm very close to the genre. I love it, and I'm actually here to learn and contribute as best as I can to the discussion.
Absolutely, and shout out to Fodi. We really miss you, and we really hope that next year you can join us. So we're in 2026. The rise has happened. It's been explosive, and I just want to start with a lay of the landscape, with a kind of honest temperature check. Where do you all sort of feel where we are right now? And I'd love to just kind of go around. So we'll start with Claydo first.
I think the genre is in a really good place. I think Afro house is a sort of umbrella term. All of the genres, or most of them within the kind of term, are growing, and in a healthy way. There was, of course, like some sort of like a bubble last year, but I think that everything is growing like healthily, and everything's in a good place, and there's investment towards the genre. So for me, everything looks good.
Shanae, what are you feeling right now?
Not as positive as you. I think the genre is in a very interesting place. I think from a booking agent perspective, we've got some stability. There's certain clients on my roster who will constantly get like stable amount of bookings in certain regions that are invested, certain clubs and certain places that you can go to and you know, okay, I can pitch and it's gonna win here. My problem is the breakthrough. I haven't where's the next new act? Where's the next new exciting thing? I feel like 2 years ago you was like constantly finding something new. And now it just feels I really worry when you get to the point where there's no like younger or fresher artists really breaking through. And I can't think of like we've had Jazz World and Tukatella, but I can't really think of like many that have come through in the last couple of years. And also, I think the mainstream bookings and where artists can really make a lot of money in like festivals or doing stuff on bigger production stage, they've really tapped out. And it's like kind of going back into the niche spaces and the more underground spaces, which is good because it's back to where it was. It's aligning with culture. It's where it's understood. But I felt like we had the opportunity to really break it out, and maybe we're at a battling point right now.
Well, when they say like 700% of growth on Splice has been from Afro House, you know, it's not, maybe it's not a reflection that the producers aren't there. Where do you think, why is it hard to find the emerging acts? Because do you believe that they are there, the producers are making that music? Why do you think discovery is particularly hard? Or is it maybe they're not quite the full package yet to go on that international level?
I think there's a lot out there. There's a lot of choice right now, and I also think it's down to laziness. Like bookers are going to book what they know is going to win and what is going to give them the result. And I think people have tried or taken risks on stuff and not seen the instant results, and now like pulling their hand back. Where this is something that you need to grow with and you need to cultivate. And I just wish it was given the same care and attention and grace as other genres.
Thank you for sharing. Kulo.
Well, I think Afro House right now is a poster boy for optimism on where we are going as like humanity. I mean, I come from a country that shares a lot of like rough history. I'm not gonna go deep into the terms. I think a little bit of it is already in the atmosphere. But it's a poster boy who's growing, you know, who's discovering himself and who's optimistic that we are going to all live up to the promise of togetherness, you know. So I think it's much, much bigger than the parties and the music. You know, it's literally a vehicle for humanity. And yeah, I mean, I could easily be selfish and say, hey, I started this, I did that. I always say that where I come from, you know, we don't own anything. You know, everything that is used to participate, you know, to have fun, to escapism, and to bring people together, it's more of like a gift, and it comes from places beyond our understanding. So traditionally, where I come from, that's how we look at it, you know. So I think it's a poster boy who's very optimistic about humanity. So let's see how he grows.
Thank you. Mimo.
Yeah, finally, I'm very happy because we finally are where we're supposed to be. And this was my dream when I start. I created my label 11 years ago. I really dreamed to be where we are now. I had the vision that this music could deserve a better place, a better visibility exposure. It took long run, 11 years, because some probably people think it blew up very fast in the last maybe 2 years, but that is not really correct because it's been 11 years working hard. It's true that immediately after the pandemic blew up, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but or probably the pandemic just cooled down. Maybe we could become big even before, and I think it was just growing year after year with the contribution of everyone, artist, label, and I truly believe that there is still lots to do. I can say that I am optimistic by nature, but honestly, I don't believe uh, the public opinion think this is the peak of the Afro House. The Afro House is already going down. I think we are just in the middle of the process. Um, yeah, so okay, we have time to go deeper in the discussion.
Potential.
Thank you, Mimo. And finally, Raphael.
Well, from a beatport perspective, Afro House is doing fantastic. It's doing great. It's had incredible growth over the years. So I think on a very positive note there, but at the same time, I think we're also in a state where we have to be very careful that we preserve the culture and, you know, protect the Africans. Afro House, Amapiano, you know, it's from Africa, and this is the most important. And we need to listen to the community, and we need to push the artists that are making the music from Africa. It's the most important thing, and a lot of the maybe some of the growth that happened in Afro House was not coming from African artists. On Beatport, at least, the top 10, the top 100 is often not artists from Africa, but we've hired, you know, experts from Africa, curators who are super passionate and who are really knowledgeable and are really in the subculture and the culture. And we need to listen to them, and they need to tell us what to do, as opposed to we think we know what we need to do. We need to really listen and be part of the community and preserve the culture. That's really the most important. And I think with that, the genre can thrive even more. And we shouldn't forget where it comes from. And yeah.
Thank you. Very well said. And talking about, of course, you know, from where it came from and just being at that moment where we're at the foundation. Kulo, you were literally one of the pioneers. You released on Innovisions. You brought a lot of this sound to the West. Has it been easy to kind of hold your ground to get a fair, sustained level of success as it grew from that moment?
Well, I think as somebody that lives very deep within himself, it's going to be a hard one to answer it at a commercial level or the surface level. But I've just been happy to see that a lot of the bedroom uh, bedroom studio producers that had like so much potential, you know, they're already doing the rounds, doing exactly what I was doing when I started, you know, like 2009, 2010. They're traveling the world, they're meeting new people, you know, making new friends, and Africans in particular, you know, like meeting other Africans from other Afro-associated locations like the islands, you know. So it's the word balance. I think it keeps on coming up in my head as we're talking right now, and I think as again, I'm gonna go back to the humanity thing. You know, the music, the messaging. You know, the togetherness. We are friends. You know, let's stay positive. Let's not kill each other. Uh, the Mandela syndrome. You know, we call it that as South Africans in our crazy conversations about the whole thing. I think it's doing very well, and I think we are all trying to understand the term balance a little better through the music. And I think it's going to take a little bit of patience and those little pockets of grace, of optimism that we are all trying to sort of like master, and in our different strengths and weaknesses. You know, I discovered a lot about myself traveling the world through other people. I feel like we are sitting here right now, all mirroring each other in one way or the other. So I also have this thing about home is a feeling, you know, and I think the music community understands that very well without, you know, sort of like putting too much compensation on the words themselves, you know. So I'm a sonic enthusiast, you know. I usually just let the music speak for itself, and I think, as I said again, I'm gonna leave it at the optimism level. I think it's doing very well, and people are able to earn a living. You know, people come from like the craziest locations. You'd be surprised, you know, the rooms some of these kids make this music. You know, I was actually looking at a guy last night who was texting me. He's like, "Sir, please kindly listen to my music." And I checked out his location. He's in his bedroom studio in the deep in the township. You know, but he's already messing around with Fruity Loops, and I could see the optimism and him channeling the hope, you know, just from that location, you know. So I think it's we are going in the right direction, and yeah, we are all walking on eggshells, and I get it, but yeah, I think something beautiful is gonna come out of it.
Thank you for being honest about your experiences.
I think honesty is very much a big thing right now. I think for all of us, and I think that's what true alignment is, and just to be super honest about what's going on. And yeah, but I think just seeing people getting out of a paradigm that's just heavy on them on a daily, going out of the country and seeing other people. And just from that perspective, I think there's a good direction happening. Yeah.
So we're here in Ibiza, and obviously it's been central to Europe's story and relationship with Afro electronic music for years. Obviously, Black Coffee at High, kind of music at various venues, and this year I think we might even be going to its biggest season. There's Shimza at Pasha, Coffee at Universe, Francis at High, Armame at Cova Santa, probably more I've even missed. But Ibiza is a very specific kind of machine. So, Sinead, from a bookings perspective, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are about what you see maybe shaping the season ahead here in Ibiza.
I think it's fantastic. It's really exciting to see. I think it's bringing again African talent who are from like South Africa to actually come here for the first time and come onto the island and play, which I think was really good. I love what Francis Mercier is doing with his Soli brand and how he's building it out in different regions. And generally, he builds connections with the artists from the continent and books them. So it doesn't feel transactional, it feels really meaningful as well. I think it's going to be a really good season. And I think Ibiza, to see it being, to see how it is here and it can exist, and you can have a Shimza, you can have a coffee, and you can also have a coffee play at Shimza's Day at Pasha, and just the collaboration of it all is something that I think you really want to build out across Europe as well. I would love to see like a stronger tour and circuit, more clubs, more venues, more spaces for the music as well, and more collaboration in that same way, and also more brand development. I think Shimza and Co, Francis Soli, there's ownership there. So then they can go to the clubs and they can have a say about what's being booked. So the reason why we're seeing some of the names that we are seeing being booked at High is because Francis is literally on CC to every email that's coming in from High. So you know that he's involved. He's saying he wants these names and he's building it out himself. And I think when an artist takes power of the creation, Shims is literally saying, I want these artists to come and play at Pasha. This is how I want to build it. It helps to create space in a way which is stronger than what I can do by sending emails and knocking on the door and saying, you should be booking this, you should be booking this. When it's me and the artist tag teaming together, going to the clubs and the buyers and saying you need to book it, the bookings are definitely going to get done. And I definitely, the collaboration, working with Shimza, working with Francis, and working with the teams on ground this season, in my opinion, it's been the easiest season to get this music onto the island.
Yeah, that's really insightful. Thank you. And like, where are you seeing markets maybe saturating globally, and where else are you seeing opportunities as an agent in the very active in the landscape?
Saturation, I think probably London would probably be the worst for saturation. It seems like there's something all the time, and every club wants to have a piece of it. And like sometimes I feel like it just doesn't have to exist in certain spaces, but there's clubs in London that have seen that it's worked over here. So now they're like, oh, I want to book that night there. And I'm like, this music is sexy. Your club is not sexy. Like, why are we here? But like, they come with the fee. The artist wants to do the booking, and then my hands are like that. But it does feel like in London, it's everywhere, where I want it to have a feeling in a space. Like, going to Passion and hearing Afro House makes sense. Like, it's the vibe, it's the feeling. Some of the holes that we're going to see Afro House and Amapiano in this year in London, I don't know if it really works.
I mean, Sondela, obviously you guys started in London. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I agree. And I think even for us as a label, when we're deciding where to do where to do events, specific venues, like we've been, people reach out to us sometimes and we're like, okay, we kind of need to, we have a brand obviously to protect, an artist to protect, so we can't really just be putting the brand in any space, because that's our image as a brand, and we need to tell people stuff based on where we actually host our events. So I agree. I think in London there's a lot of places that just want to take like the sort of sound and put Afro House in there, but it doesn't necessarily like work. Like there's no feeling inside the actual place. So it's like you can't put a certain style of music with feeling in there,
And if you're just, and there's so many different promoters now and so much different people putting on events that we're not building community. It feels like it's just like money grabbing. So I want to bring this artist over. I might have a connection there. I can pay the fee. I'm going to get the venue and put it in there. But we're not like building community in like a really authentic way, because that's how you have sustainability. Like I always look at like what my colleagues are doing in tech house, and if you look at what Josh Baker's built, that's a really big community that he's now been able to expand across Europe. So I think that's also what oversaturation does. It kind of breaks up the community as well.
Absolutely. And we all know that Africa and community are interlinked hand in hand. Like, if you take that word out and you try to build it in the West, you lose the entire authenticity and essence of its what it means, you know, to experience African electronic music, not just Afro house, but all different genres. Quick pause for a second. If you're enjoying this episode, make sure you hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening. A lot of thought goes into curating these conversations, and your support genuinely helps us grow the show and continue bringing these ideas and incredible guests to life. I also wanted to let you know that I've recently opened up a creative strategy coaching service for a select few artists, producers, entrepreneurs, and brands looking to grow with more clarity and more intention. The reality is, in today's music industry, we all know that talent alone isn't enough anymore. You need to know how to position yourself, build real relationships, create momentum around your releases, and move confidently across multiple lanes at once. So if you're looking for some guidance on building your brand, navigating the industry, connecting with the right people, signing to your dream labels, and creating opportunities that genuinely move the needle forward for your career, then feel free to reach out to me directly. You can reach me on Instagram at dj.n1nja. Alrighty, let's get back into the episode. Plato, I just want to touch upon a little bit there with what you said, because, you know, you guys have kind of been almost like a bridge between Africa and the rest of the world and Europe. And you've hosted remarkable showcases, not just in London, but Ibiza, Amsterdam, South Africa, Nairobi. And I'm curious, like, you know, each of those cities has a very different relationship to the music. So how do you design an event that actually carries your identity into all of those spaces? And is there a city that maybe surprised you the most in how it's received the music?
I mean, the way that we, like, all of our events really do reflect us as a label. Like, all of the artists that we work with and all the artists that we intend on booking, they would have need to, you know, release on Sondela or had some sort of like long-term affiliation. So we kind of stick to our own thing, and, you know, having that sort of like nucleus allows us to go to each city and really represent ourselves, Sondela, properly. And if there's a recent city that's surprised me, it was actually Paris. We had an event there 3 weeks ago, and there's not much Afro house representation there, but I must say, like, I was like in my set like 4 songs in, and then like a dance circle broke out, and like I didn't know how to handle that situation. But it was cool to know that people were that excited about our event coming to the city, and it was at June, a really, you know, historic club. So it was just an honor to be there, and I think it was really, really well received. And, you know, we've done events here and there in different places, and most of the time, or 100% of the time, it's been really, really well received. And yeah, Paris was the most surprising one.
Tell me a bit about South Africa, because I remember we talked about this a bit offline about what you were actually surprised about in South Africa. I think it'll be interesting for people to hear that.
What I was surprised about South Africa?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't necessarily like surprised. I was maybe surprised that Joburg and Cape Town are like totally different. So like I'm from South Africa, born and raised, but like I hadn't done my own sort of event there. So going back, doing Sondela, like, and just understanding like, okay, Joburg is like you're kind of being assessed the whole time while you're playing. Like everyone is like really, really focused and, you know, like actually like cares a lot about like each DJ that's like playing and what they're doing. Whereas Cape Town is a little bit more relaxed. People are actually just free and open. It's like a more creative like sort of crowd. So I think I was just really surprised by it. So obviously it's the same country, but there's 2 completely different reactions by the people.
Yeah, and I remember you were saying as well that maybe the communities are very interested in their own local talent and not the outside.
Yes, yeah. To be fair, like one thing about South Africans, they really love their own artists more than like anyone else, unless you obviously have like a massive star like Chris Brown or whatever in the more commercial world. But as far as house goes, like South African people love their own like people and their own artists, and they get excited when they see Lala Tuxin or Dark or Shimza, whoever, like, and even more local like guys as well. Everyone kind of has their own community that they're building.
Mimo, you've got a very significant show coming up here on the island at Ushuaia, the opening. Tell us a little bit more about the sort of significance of that moment for you.
This is another milestone. For the first time, places like Ushuaia, known for totally different kind of music, decide to do an opening with a lineup totally Afro house. The first time in the history, we are truly making history because this means a lot. It's a very huge opportunity, um, and I'm sure from there things is gonna getting better and better because Ushuaia it's extremely famous in the entire world, and we having these events on Sunday is making a lot of noise. I see interest of people that uh, initially they're very far from our sound, and now they also look at us in different way. So I believe this is really important for the whole genre to have, be hosted by these venues that typically, historically, were not in this kind of music.
Well, we can't wait for your show on Sunday at Shire.
Yeah,
Um,
cannot wait.
Thank you. Raf, you've had like a front row seat to Afro electronic music, how it's moved through the Beatport ecosystem. What has the challenges been around the genre that you've particularly seen? And also, Beatport obviously just launched the Latin electronic music genre, and I'd love to also hear from you, like, what are the things that go into like how hard is it to launch a genre on Beatport? What are the things you've got to think about, and where do you see that maybe going for the Afro world?
It's very difficult to launch a new genre, especially one like Latin electronic, because you need to have the content for it. But you also have to understand the culture, and you have to have people on the ground that is gonna feed back information, so that we can learn. And also, yeah, getting this content, it's quite challenging. But as far as Afro House has been concerned, I mean, when we launched Afro House, our curator was white, so that was definitely not the right move to have. But we're continuously learning, and eventually we hired a curator from Nigeria, and then now our curators are from South Africa. We had a curator in Ethiopia and Kenya, so that's really important for us to do that. And can you say that again? Your question? I got like.
Well, what are some of the challenges that you're now
yeah.
facing
Yeah, yeah.
around that genre?
So I think that the main challenge now is that everybody wants to do Afro house, and you can just go and get like samples, and probably everybody's using the same sample packs, having an Afro house skeleton of a track, putting a pop vocal on it, and saying, "Yeah, I'm Afro house artist now." And I think that's wrong, and I think that we need to take this music out of the genre. It's becoming way more pop. I mean, every genre is, I guess, victim of its own success, and there's always going to be a level of commercial tracks. But I think that's, at least in my opinion, and my curators, that's not really what real Afro house is, or amapiano, or three-step, or Afro melodic. And so we are actually thinking of ways to do that, and we are fighting constantly with people. We're like, no, I want to be in Afro house. Well, we think this should not be there. We think this should be in dance, or in a different genre, or maybe even in tech house, because people think because there's some percussions, all of a sudden it's Afro house, but it's really not. And I think it's really important to do that. And actually, maybe a question for you guys: what do you think about potentially something like Afro pop that would just sit under dance, just get all this stuff into a different genre, so that we can really preserve the genre of Afro house? I think that's what the kind of ideas we're thinking about. How can we get this music out of the genre? Because I think it's not what it represents. And please correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we've been thinking lately. And we're also trying to do a lot of editorial, a lot of like information from journalists, writers, to talk about what is three-step, what is Afro melodic, what is amapiano, who are the key figures, who are the people that have been there from the beginning, and like how does the movement sound. And I think it's really important to try and give this information, not with like we're here to educate, but we're here to use the experts to give the right information for people, so that the genre can be like healthy and global, because it's also our job to try and make it global, so we can help the community in Africa, the African artists, to shine globally as well, and tour and earn revenue and grow their careers. So that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's a challenge. It's not that easy, because there's a lot of big players who just know you have to do it. You have to put my music there, and we're like, no, and then it's just so much conflict. yeah, it's tough.
Well, thanks
Sometimes.
for openly sharing that, because I think unless most people wouldn't know that. They see it from the outside and they question when they look at the top 100 charts and in that genre. But you've definitely shone a light that I think a lot of people are unaware of. And does anyone have any?
There's gonna be a huge difference between what we're featuring and what's actually charting.
Yeah,
And what's
absolutely.
featuring is really our curators finding the new talent, the hot gems, the great labels, and putting really amazing focus on the music, the real music, the artists. And then yeah, if you look at the top 10, sometimes or most of the time, I feel a little bit sad about it. But we're trying to find ways to fight that and to counter it and find solutions. And we always want to talk to the community to understand better.
So do you guys have any thoughts if Afro pop was a genre? Does anyone have any thoughts about that?
Afropop?
Yeah.
Just to like be able to categorize it as such so that people know what it is, but just so that it's out of Afro house, because I think it doesn't belong there.
I think these sentiments, they sometimes they are born from artists not expressing themselves in the right spaces. I've played in spaces where there is like crazy bottle service activity, etc., etc. And I could feel this vibe that these kids are looking at you. They're just like, okay, what is like? Show me some shit. Like, what are you doing? They're not really looking at it from the way we looking at it. As the people that come from the source. So I think also, the word community has been circulating a lot, and I think that's where our core strength, is going to come from. If you really want to create a sustainable movement called the Afro Bus, you're gonna need to have a really strong foundation, and yeah, because now it's all diluted. Personally, as an artist. Deep house music, garage, and as long as that feeling is there for me, that's the music for me. I don't really like to box myself, but I realize that there's like a whole like community of people that want to hold on to the wagon. Like this is Afro, yeah. And something that I really appreciate, and coming from where I come from, I realized the importance of it over time. Also as a young man growing up, because I feel like I was just put onto this thing when I was super young. So and everything was happening like super fast. So like the politics and the other points of interest around the industry is things that I discovered on the way, which is like a big privilege, for me. But I'm speaking for people that do not have like that privilege. So when they see Afro in a global stage, they've got something to look up to. I look at documentaries about the favelas in Brazil. They have like similar issues with their sound, and how it's blocked by the government for certain reasons. I'm not gonna go deep into that, but I think the Afro movement, if we really want to make it strong and impactful, I think that the foundation is going to need to be a little tighter, for those people that want to have it like that, So, but yeah, I think it's just my take.
I think one of the most unresolved questions in Afro electronic music is about vocalists, and that's obviously long before AI was in the picture, and I think we all know where that's going next, especially for the vocalists out there, and they're obviously heard everywhere, but they're kind of seen almost nowhere. And so I'd like to ask you guys what you think, if there are any vocalists in the room, what they need to do to maybe build more of their creative and economic independence in this industry. Anyone can start with that. So take it.
I think I could just say just what I think. I think a lot of like house vocalists need to, or could potentially try moving into the direction of like, just being vocalists and artists before anything, like before being only boxed into like house vocalists, because I think the issue now is like a lot of vocalists kind of need to rely like on the DJs or artists that are creating their music so that they can perform alongside them instead of being like the main sort of focus points, and go into sort of creating like a show like where they have their own set list with their own music and their versions where they can perform their music. And I think that there aren't many vocalists in the house world that do that or make that initiative to make it positive, so to make it possible, so that they can, create their own fans as they themselves as vocalists, instead of having fans that like the DJ's music with their voice on it. So I think that that's, for me, the where vocalists should be going in the Afro house space and just house space in general. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but for me that makes sense.
The word messaging, I think the lyrical content, and the meaningfulness, of what is being written, of what is being sung. I think it will also create like that plateau again. Like it needs a strong foundation. Like if you are going to say you want to go far with it, I think the people that will take it there are people that have a sense of meaningfulness, when it comes to like the songwriting. And the formula now, from what I'm picking up, well, I mean, I think it's been like this for a while, but it's more about the calmest machine, and I think if you really want to have some sort of a strong plateau, we got to meditate on the idea of meaningful lyrics.
Can I say something? More in general, not only in Afro, but in general, I can say the role of the singer has changed. While in the past he was probably the only artist, and producer was not even mentioned, was not even considered as an artist, sometimes not even credited, in the production. Now the situation has changed completely upside down. Now the real artist is the producer, and the singer is not seen anymore like the main artist. And again, even in this case, sometimes it's not even credited. That is also wrong. So this is what I think is the main what happens, and the reason why we see so many singers, but probably they have not anymore the space live as it was before. And I think our responsibility, at least for me, when I can, I always try to involve a singer during my showcases. So I think this is the right balance for the future.
Thank you for sharing that, Mimo. Conscious that we don't have much time left, so as this is all about the future, I'd love for each of you, from your lens specifically, so we can start with Graf, about the curation, the platform, where you see this evolution going for Afro electronic music in the next 5-10 years.
From what I take, and from when I speak to my curator, he's super excited about the subgenres, or actually are genres of their own. Like we call them subgenres, but I think there's just so much talent, there's so much community, there's a great sound. We just need to make sure that we promote it in the right way. But I'm like 5 to 10 years, I don't see it going anywhere. I think it's gonna just keep getting better. I mean, if you look at house music, I mean, it's been around for 40 years. It's still around, and I don't see that any different with Afro house or with any of the genres from this space. And I was just on a panel earlier with Kike Lomo, and she was explaining how, like in Nigeria, like the scene is way better, and like the clubs and the parties and the festivals are like on a whole other scale than Berlin, for example. And people think Berlin is like the capital of the world of electronic music, which could be to a certain degree, but I think people don't realize what's going on over there. I've never been there, and I can't wait to go, but she made me super excited, in fact, to want to go. And there's a whole thing that we don't know out there, and it's just like the community is huge. And so I don't see why it wouldn't keep growing. Yes, there was a little bubble, and like, bigger artists, mainstream artists using Afro House, and, getting bigger and bigger. But like, once this bubble burst, the great artists and the great talent and the great communities are going to continue doing this amazing music. And I don't see why anybody should be afraid. It should be exciting. I think it's just, I'm very excited about the future. Yeah.
There's a lot to be excited about, 100%. And Mimo is running the biggest Afro house label in the world. Like, what does the label look like to you in your mind in the next decade? And what artists are exciting you right now?
I don't. There are so many. So for me, it's always difficult to see. What I can say in 10 years' time, I think we'll still be here, and we are telling amazing stories. because, as I said, it's as far as you know, we should not consider this genre as grown and now we relax, right? We should always thinking to grow. There is always opportunity to do better, and the approach should never change. As we used to have this approach since 11 years ago, we should always trying to propose something quality, good music, experiment, evolving the sound, right? Because in fact, when they say the Afro house has diluted, I really don't like this because it's like a negative, meaning. I think it's not about dilution; it's about evolution. Uh, Actually, without this, Afro house could never be so big as it is now. It was probably destined to be always for a niche, very small group of person. And actually, it's thanks to this new injection of new electronic music in the Afro house that made it more appealing and reach more a mainstream, wide audience. Culo de Song is an example. When he released the track on Inner Vision, was one of the first visionary in this kind of music, and he inspired me a lot together with other artists like Raul K. Those one they start to combine the pure electronic sound with some Afro elements. That was the magic, okay? And this is what I was also trying to carry on and to continue. That's why I think it's really important to always try to experiment, to add the new elements. As you see, before Afro was more soulful, was deep, then became a tech, Afro tech, and now we know as a melodic Afro, right? So one of the characteristics of the Afro house is because it's a very there's a variety, so it's not only one genre at the end. There is different varieties. There is more classic, deep, underground, or the one goes to into commercial, and this also reflects in our DJ set. We are all considered like Afro as DJs, but each of us is different. If you listen to the song, it's different from another DJ, but it's still Afro House DJ. So I think this is the real force that Afro House has it, different from any other genre. And with these characteristics, I think will keep on changing, but always keeping that Afro, no tweak. It can be next stage, it can be more disco, then it can be again minimal, you know. It has these characteristics to change it, but still keeping through.
That's music, right? It goes through cycles of evolution. Kulo, as a Sangoma, you're trained
The
to
only way
listen-
to survive is to evolve. I mean, if we are stuck to if we were 11 years ago to this tribal as it was, probably it was dead already Afro House. Thanks to this evolution or this dilution, as they want to say, that the Afro House became big as it is now. If you like it or not, of course, then each of us select his own music. Each of us goes in different direction. Who prefer to go more into the commercial or to, I mean, this is about personal taste. But as far as the whole Afro House is enjoying, and also the DJs that traveling the world as never before, I think it's just amazing.
Thank you, Mo. We only have 2 minutes left, so real quick, what is your like top prediction for what's coming next that we're not seeing right now?
The whole music thing, how we look at it comes from a place beyond us, and I don't take any credit for anything that I've done. It's just I'm just a vehicle where energies are gonna flow and things are gonna happen. I'll be a tool. I don't mind being a vessel. And again, moving towards whatever's coming, I think it's beautiful the way I see it. For each and every, like as individuals, as human beings, I'm listening to all the stuff that's been talked about on the internet, random conversations, even here in the conference. I think for me, it's looking beautiful. And yeah, let's just work together.
Thank you. Sinead?
I think what I don't want to predict the future, but I think what I'm excited for, and I think we saw it a lot this year from like a live booking perspective because of what's going on in the Middle East, and then the Middle East kind of got taken out of the touring circuit, and then Middle East is great income for DJs, so you're kind of like, what do we do now? And I represent artists who are from the continent, and then I also represent artists who are maybe from America or Europe who play Afro electronic music. And to now see the number of inquiries coming in for artists who are like based in Europe or America to go to places like Kenya and Nigeria. Nigeria having a real scene with infrastructure and people being able to go there and play there. And then on the other side as well, like people from, I want to see more bookings of people from South Africa, from West Africa, from Kenya to come over and to play in Europe. So I think it's that bridge. I think it's that we need to work together. We need to be pushing money towards the continent, but also making sure that artists who are based in Europe, who played this sound, who are based in America, that they also go to the continent. They go to South Africa, they go to Kenya, they go and play there, and we help to build out the scene there as well, so that it's a real value exchange. I think that's the exciting thing that we're seeing now.
We didn't even talk about Kenya, but what's happening in East Africa is unbelievable.
Crazy. I got stuck in Kenya because of Donald Trump and this war, and actually like to go and to immerse myself and see what was happening in the clubs and the real love for the music was amazing.
Absolutely. Kledo, we're out of time, but quick one sentence.
The future's bright. There's enough investment, a lot of investment going on in the genre and in the artists and everything, and I'm just excited for everything.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed having this conversation. If you want to support the show, hit follow, leave a rating, or share it with someone in your crew, because it genuinely helps us grow and it helps us to continue bringing incredible guests and conversations your way. A lot of thought goes into curating these conversations, so if you want to go deeper as well, head to the Mission Makers website for a special essay that I've written breaking down the biggest takeaways from today's conversation. Lastly, I've also been releasing a ton of music recently on some of my dream labels like Mo Black and Get Physical. It's deep, it's ethereal, and it's heavily rooted in Afro-tech progressive vibes. So if you want to check that out, you can find it on all streaming platforms and Beatport under my alias Ninja. That's N1NJA. Appreciate you being here, keep it laser focused, and I'll see you in the next episode.